Good evening, I hope everyone's okay today. Thank you for watching as always. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. It does help the channel out a lot. I want to talk about one of my pet peeves today, which is the ECHR. We're going to get into a video later in the segment about question time audiences being dinghy divers and telling us, schooling us on our domestic law and the application in Northern Ireland of the ECHR, which is a farce and it's not actually accurate. So we're going to start with this, which is European ministers back ECHR plan to tackle illegal migration. Don't buy the hype, don't swallow the pill, they're not serious. Then we get into the meat of the article, and I think this has been triggered, by the way, as always, because of the rise of what the lefties call the far right, such as the AFD in Germany and the National Rally in France and Reform UK, Advance UK, UKIP or Heritage Party, whatever your poison is in the United Kingdom. Okay, that's what they're scared about, and that's why they'll pontificate and say they're going to do things which they'll never get round to doing. The European countries, including the UK, have agreed to negotiate a new approach to the continent's main human rights treaty in a bid to make it easier to deport illegal migrants. Just to supply it, we had human rights and we have thousands of international treaties that the UK is party to. This is but one of them. It follows a meeting of justice ministers in Strasbourg following calls from countries to revamp the ECHR for the modern age. 46 nations that are part of the convention will now work towards adopting a political declaration at a summit in May, so 5 months from now. How many dinghy divers will we have to accommodate, and potentially they could potentially harm our citizens in the meantime. It follows political pressure on the issue from the Tories and Reform UK, who are calling for complete withdrawal from the treaty. As am I. We don't need it. We had human rights before 1998. We had human rights before this treaty came out after World War II. In fact, the reason why we authored it, or were party to authoring it after World War II, was to safeguard the continent of Europe, not the UK, against the atrocities that were suffered during World War II. We'll continue with the article. Critics say that the ECHR is getting in the way of removing more and more illegal migrants, while supporters say the claims of the ECHR's role in migration cases are exaggerated. The talks in Strasbourg covered the Convention's Article 8, which protects the right to a family life, and Article 3, the ban on inhumane treatment, which critics have argued have made it harder to deport certain migrants. In a joint statement, the 27 ECHR countries, 27 of the 46, have said they want the concept of inhumane treatment to be constrained to the most serious issues, so that states can make proportionate decisions to remove foreign criminals. Why are we begging cap in hand to a foreign prince, potentate or power, to quote the Privy Councillor Oath of Allegiance, when Parliament's meant to be sovereign? In fact, any treaty like this, it clearly says in the treaties that the countries remain sovereign. So the only reason we're adhering to stuff like this is to be nice. That is the only reason our women, our children, your daughters, my nieces are unsafe, is because of the politicians wanting to save face and be nice. They added they also wanted to see the right to family right amended so that foreign criminals, social, cultural and family ties are afforded less weight during removals. So it amounts to tweaking things on the surface. I've mentioned the most specific and radical reform to the ECHR would be make it apply to Europeans only. Africa should have their own human rights law. Australia or Australasia should have their own. Asia should have their own. North America should have their own. South America should have their own. As simple as that. If you've got somebody from Somalia fleeing persecution, let South Africa take them. Let Tanzania take them. Let Morocco take them. Why is it our problem? Let me get on to this. Membership of the ECHR has emerged as a key dividing line in debates over the small boat crossings in the English Channel. Critics of the treaty argue that it's an easier process for returning failed refugees will deter people from making the journey. In a joint article with Danish leader, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, ahead of Wednesday's meeting, ECHR argue that urgent changes are needed to defeat the force of the faith and division, i.e. Reform UK. We get on to this final bit here. After speaking after Wednesday's meeting, Alan Berset, head of the Council of Europe, which oversees the convention, said that signatory countries were not currently calling for the treaty itself to be rewritten, again, so just tweaking around the edges. It was the start of a process on a consensus basis. I believe all 46 countries need to agree, because it is the only way to make some progress, he told the news conference. He added that the previous political declarations have allowed countries to deliver on common challenges, and whilst adding he did not want to predict exactly what would happen. So we'll leave that one there. Now, my view is we don't need any foreign court, prince, potentate or powers telling us what we can and can't do in our United Kingdom. It's just not needed. Now, the most egregious is what happened on Question Time last week, where we had a dinghy diver try to school the panel on our rights, our protections because of the fabulous ECHR. He had a earpiece in, he was being fed the information and reading off a pre-prepared script. So we'll get to that in a moment. I'm sure this has nothing to do with Nigel Farage cozying up to the national rally in France, and they've agreed that pushbacks when Farage becomes Prime Minister of the boat people back to France will be allowed. So we're going to get into this clip now. Alright?
You came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
What's your response to what you're hearing? Because obviously everyone is talking about people like you.
Well, let me say something first. I just want to clear that leaving the convention doesn't just affect the migrants. It would give ordinary people one less court, to protect their rights.
I don't need foreign court telling me what I can and can't do in the United Kingdom. My parliament is sovereign down in London. It specifically says in any treaty that we enter into that the sovereignty of our United Kingdom is retained at Westminster. I do not need a foreign court telling me what to do. We had human rights before 1998 and this will continue.
Even for weekend checks and the government power risk on peace settlement in Northern Ireland and damage our security cooperation.
Not true. This is a myth. The peace process is not safeguarded by the ECHR. Let's have a look into this now. The core international treaty between the UK and Ireland, the British-Irish Agreement, the interstate treaty components of the Good Friday Agreement does not mention the ECHR at all. The Good Friday Agreement therefore does not include a clause that says the UK or ERA must remain parties to the ECHR in perpetuity, or withdrawal from the ECHR will be automatically breaching the Good Friday Agreement. There are passages that do reference the ECHR, and that relates to domestic legal order in Northern Ireland and the functioning of devolved institutions, not a binding international law commitment on the UK or Ireland's ECHR membership per se. As a result, the number of legal experts argue that the decision to withdraw from the ECHR does not violate the Good Friday Agreement. For example, in a recently published paper by the think tank Policy Exchange argues that neither the letter or the spirit of the Belfast Agreement anywhere requires the UK or Ireland to remain within the auspices of the ECHR, and that future government could lawfully withdraw from the ECHR without breaching any agreements. So schooling the dinghy diver there. Let's get back to the clip because he goes on to insult.
Let me ask you about your situation.
Oh, by the way, look, he's got an earpiece, but by the way, yeah, we've got a close-up of that earpiece as well, so here's the close-up of the earpiece. Clearly not a plant, completely legitimate. On a slight segue, where are all the victims of migrants in the audience? They've got so many people in there trying to inspire sympathy from the British public. Oh, look at the poor people, look at them. Don't you feel sorry for them? Well, no, I don't actually. No, I do not. They entered my country illegally. They need to go back.
I mean, since we were talking about immigration in this programme today, we thought, and we would be talking about people like you, we would see if there were, 2 or 3, 4 people who wanted to come along who are in that situation, and I know you are. So you, because I talked to you beforehand, you came from Iran. I just wonder what you think of this idea, because one thing that the government is talking about is if, and a number of parties are, if the countries are safe, they become safe once you have left them, in your case, Iran.
Okay.
Would you be then happy to go back?
Refugee status is never meant to be a gateway to citizenship in my view. If your country is safe, you go back. If British Hong Kongers get to a situation where Hong Kong becomes viable and safe out of the clutches of the Chinese Communist Party, then yes, the British Hong Kongers should go back. And the same with the Ukrainians. Refugee status is not meant to be permanent.
Well, there's 2 points which we need to take care about them. First of all, okay, physically, if Iran is safe, the regime change, there is a regime change in Iran, okay, that's safe for people like me to go back to Iran.
Completely. Well and truly. Completely. Absolutely.
But the second thing which we need to take care about it is, for example, for me, I have a 4-month-old daughter, so she born here, and she's growing up here. She will growing up here, learning English, learning how to read and write English, and she won't know how to read and write Farsi.
Well, that makes you a bad dad. If you're anticipating a return to Iran, you should be teaching your daughter how to read and speak Farsi. It's as simple as that. You're a bad parent. If I was being, a refugee in France, for example, I'd be making sure my kids learn English because they're going back home eventually. That's exactly what's going to happen. You're a bad parent and you're a bad actor because you're not doing that. You're assuming we're a soft touch and we're going to keep you in perpetuity. One thing they don't actually get onto in this clip is he working? Are we paying for this person? Are we paying for this mofo? If we are, I've not consented to this.
Or even speak Farsi.
So you wouldn't want to go back with your family?
Yeah, even after, let's say, after 5 years.
You can be deported together. I'm not a fan of splitting families apart. Families, wherever possible, should stay together. I think that's a humane thing to do. Clearly, this Chancellor has had a baby in Britain because he thinks it's going to bolster his claim to stay in the United Kingdom. In my view, you can both go, and if the wife is here as well, or the girlfriend, she can go as well. All of you can go together. Keep the family unit together by all means, of course. Go together. Problem solved.
A government from Mr. Zia reform, which came originally from a migrant family, came tell me to go back to your country. What will happen to my daughter?
She'll be going with you. Before Zia's response, which is actually quite good. Now, this isn't a pro-Zia Yusuf video, by the way. I've got issues with him, but that's not the point. The point of this particular video is he's trying to conflate illegal migration with legal migration. I believe when Zia's parents came either in the 1950s or 60s, I think they were part of the Windrush generation, like Ben Habib and other people of that generation. They're all the similar type. They came legally, first of all, and they came when net migration to the United Kingdom was about between 40 or 60k a year, 40 to 60,000 a year, give or take. It's now in the hundreds of thousands. It's not like for like, and it's not the same. And that's legal. This one in the audience came here illegally. That tells me everything about his character. First act into the United Kingdom is, I break the law. Let's continue.
You think
I'll happily answer that question. My parents came here legally. They did not come here illegally. And look, there's a clear dividing line in British politics. If you're watching this at home and you want to vote for a party that will prioritise the interests of foreign nationals who came here illegally, or do you want to vote for a party that's going to prioritise British citizens who work hard, set their alarm clocks in the evening before going to bed, and toil to pay tax money?
That is not the dividing line. That is not the dividing line in British politics right now.
Do you know how much money the British
there
taxpayer
are
had to
other choices
pay?
available.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayers had to pay for universal credit payments alone for foreign nationals last year? That was £10 billion.
Do you know how much an asylum seeker gets a week?
Hang on, if you're talking no one can hear.
£49 a week. £49 a week.
49 pence a week is too much. If we've got illegal people in the country, 49 pence is too much. Not a penny piece should be going to anybody that's broken into the country illegally. Lest we forget, many of these, not all of them, but many of the illegals that break into our country are not the best. We've had several Afghanis, I think 2 separate cases so far this week. There may be more, but there's 2 that are in the headlines. One up in Manchester. I think he was responsible for atrocities against a 14-year-old child or several 14-year-old girls. And then we had some down south as well, that these people, these nutters, were named by the judge and they turn up for the books. And one of them's got the cheeks to say, well, when he served this time in prison, he wants to stay in the UK. And apparently the footage from that incident that the girl managed to get is so horrific. The defence barrister for one of these scumbags that did this said that if that footage was made public, it would cause riots. These are the people that the nutters on the panel are defending. Alright? As I previously said, one bad apple spoils the bunch. Alright? The risk is too great.
Yes.
This is what this man wants to take off
29, British taxpayers will be spending half the forecast defence budget on universal credit alone for foreign nationals.
So we'll leave that one here, but I think Zia made a good point there, and he made a good accounting for himself and Reform's position. So we'll end that clip here. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think all of this talk about reforming the ECHR is just performative like I do? Is it time to grab a few headlines, wait 6 months, nothing will change? Big government and big states typically do things pretty poorly if they do anything. So when you get into the auspices of a supranational organisation like the EU, or the courts and the framework that surround the EU that technically isn't part of the Union itself, these take years, decades to change anything. Lest we forget, I believe all 46 countries that are signatories would need a unanimous agreement to change anything substantive. It needs to go. All of it needs to go. I'm past caring, to be honest, about the ECHR people. Oh, we need to reform it, we need to tweak it. No, it all needs to go. And the Refugee Convention of 1951 needs to go as well. These are the things. We need to be sovereign, and if it causes diplomatic tensions with European countries, so be it. Now, if you like this video and you think I'm onto something, as always, like and subscribe. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your support. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.